Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us at Lionshare's Legacy. I'm going to say this wrong. Living Legacy Gathering tonight. I'm Sonia Bierson, and this is our third time doing this event. Thank you so much for joining us. A lot of you have not been able to see this event before, so we're excited for this first live stream. We've had some crazy weather here in Tennessee over the course of the last couple of days. And so I want to thank those of you who were able to come and those of you who contributed to this event but were not able to come. So thank you for joining us via this live stream. Now, for those of you who are on YouTube, you can actually drop a little note to us in the chat. And I think I'm already seeing some people doing that. I'd love to know where people are tuning in from. So this is on YouTube, not on Facebook. On YouTube, go ahead and start dropping where you are watching this event from. So while we're doing that, I'm going to turn it over to Lionshare's founder and president, Dave Buehring, who is going to begin the program for us. Dave is still at a table. He told me to give him a cue, but he's not, so we'll just keep going. The crowd here today has been gathered, and they've just had dinner. I did not finish mine, but I'm here sacrificing to make sure that you guys get your live stream on time. Now, the best way for you to know what kind of impact the Lionshare Leadership Group is making locally and globally is to hear people tell their stories. So that's why we're holding this this evening, and also an opportunity to honor the people who have helped make Lionshare what it is today. So I hear that Dave is ready, so I'm going to turn it over to him. Dave Buehring, the founder and president of Lionshare. Dave!
Greetings to those of you watching online tonight. We're glad that you're hanging out with us. We've got people from all over the country, Lionshare friends who wanted to tap into what we were doing tonight, so we're glad that you're with us. Thanks for hanging out with us tonight. So, as you guys are beginning to finish your meals, how many of you chose cheesecake? I'm curious. All right, and then our other dessert is what? I didn't get to have that, but that looks pretty good. How many of you had that? All right, how many of you preferred the chicken? How many of you preferred the beef? Oh, very good. All right, well, it looks like we had a hit all the way around. So people will be collecting plates here as we go. So we want to begin tonight by sharing with you a video. And so some of you are familiar with something called the Leadership Games. How many of you in this room, either as a participant or as a leader, have been a part of the Leadership Games? Wave your hands. Okay? So this is something that you'll learn about here in a moment, where we gather older leaders in their 40s to 70s to deliberately disciple those in their 20s and 30s, not only spiritually, but vocationally. So take a peek at this video, and then we're going to introduce you to Paul and Hannah throughout this evening, where they're going to share stories about God's impact in their life through the Leadership Games. Can we show it?
Coming to the Leadership Games has allowed God to speak to me in ways that I wouldn't have gotten just sitting at home.
I thought for many years I needed to compartmentalize my life, work, school, church, family. I've been learning here throughout this year that it's all the same. You just need to follow God's ways and character, and He will direct you the best way possible.
The Leadership Games is a strategic opportunity for leaders in their 40s to 70s to build relationships with those in their 20s and 30s, and build a relationship to the point where they can disciple them both spiritually and vocationally. So the way the Leadership Games works is we have 4 days, 3 nights together here in Nashville, Tennessee. And while we're here, we have 3 things that go on. In the mornings, we deal with spiritual life development. How do we walk better with Jesus? How do we hear His voice? How do I be a godly leader? In the afternoons, we have an imaginary city called Hebron Hills that we try to fix the problems of that city using only the ways of God from Scripture. So it challenges all of us to say,
say, how can God help us fix real life problems? Then in the evenings, we try to disciple socially by dealing with current social issues. So in the past, we've dealt with race, gender identity, politics, AI, mental health. So we deal with those kinds of topics. So they jump in, build relationships together over a 4-day process, and then when they leave, they end up being connected, younger leaders with older leaders, and they walk together for a year in discipling relationships.
I get so excited when talking about mentorship and discipleship, so it means the world to me that that is something that I'm going to be able to have quick access to, weekly access to going into my first year of teaching, because it's comforting to know that I'm not doing this alone.
Not only is the mentor and the leadership that's happening here while you are here amazing and priceless and getting poured into and getting prayed over for specific things, but to be able to build a relationship and walk with those leaders for a year beyond when we're actually here is just incredible.
I didn't know what to expect when I first came, I'll be honest. Like I said, even my pastor and my wife was like, no, you need to go take some time off. I've been working, I work a lot, but it just blew my mind. I don't even want to leave, I'm gonna be honest.
I think the biggest thing is being believed in and supported throughout a year with other leaders who are in your vocation, who actually care about you, to find a support system that is rooted and grounded in the Word, people that will text you, call you, beat down your door if they have to make sure you're okay. You know, it's hard to find that other places. And so it's been a tremendous blessing to know that there's a group that's got my back.
If you love Jesus and you desire to grow spiritually, and you want to be excellent at what you do within your vocation, honoring God and serving others, the Leadership Games was made for you. And I want to invite you to come and join us for 4 days in the summer in Nashville, followed by a year of walking together with your peers and older, wiser leaders in a discipling relationship. So you can develop those muscles spiritually so that you have a godly character that can be trusted by others, and gaining wisdom by following the lead of the Scriptures, the Holy Spirit, and counsel of wise leaders, so that you can become everything that God has dreamed for you to be. The Leadership Games is made for you, and I want to invite you to pray about joining us here in Nashville next summer.
There we go. So do you want to come? Nancy Reese, where's Nancy? Nancy said after she went through this the first time, she said, I wish I had something like this when I was that age. So it's an amazing thing, and we've been really excited to see what God has been doing through the Leadership Games. And so by the way, if any of you who are in your 40s to 70s want to participate investing in the next generation, see one of us. It will help you do that. It's an amazing thing. So sitting here to my right is Paul. And Paul, where are you from?
I'm originally from Venezuela.
And where do you live now?
Now I'm in the great city of Pittsburgh.
Ooh, home of the Steelers.
Yes.
Last year at this event, we had one of the Steelers here sharing with us, so it was awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So you married?
Yes, married for 4 years, and we have a 1-year-old son. His name is Aaron Paul.
That's pretty awesome.
Yes.
And what do you do for a living?
I'm an engineer. I work as a project engineer for a German company. We make systems for water treatment.
So you're gonna, as you learn about the Leadership Games, oftentimes we know about discipling people spiritually, right? How to walk with God, how to hear His voice, how to walk in godly relationships. But oftentimes we don't think about, how do I walk as a godly leader in my vocation? And I'm not just talking only about things like being integral. I'm talking about when you have an opportunity, do you know how to seek God and hear His voice? Do you know how to build bridges of relationships that endure even maybe what your company can endure? Well, Paul has chosen to take that journey with us, and we've been really excited about it. But let me ask you something. How important was obedience to God for you before the Leadership Games?
It was very important. However, the Leadership Games gave me the tools to understand the process of transformation. I understood that obedience was a key part of being a Christian, but then at the leadership games, I understood that it came in a way of a process, which it was revelation, obedience, and then transformation, where obedience was the only part that I was supposed to do. And God will do the revelation and the transformation piece.
So what is an example over the last year or so of a place where God asked you to walk in obedience, where you had to choose to say, okay, I know this is the Lord, and I need to step into that?
Yes, that's a very good question, Dave. My wife, just in December of last year, she finished her PhD, and she was doing that for 10 years, and we had the option of pursuing our dream jobs, our careers, but we also had our baby. And on going through prayer, the process of prayer, and seeking counsel from our leaders, from the leadership games, we decided to take the decision of raise our kid with just me working, basically being the breadwinner for these 3 or 4 years. So that was a way that instead of pursuing what the 20s and 30s typically will pursue, we went through that decision.
Yeah. And how has Natasha, what's that been like for her? Because this was kind of a dream thing for her. She succeeded, and now she feels like God's leading her to stay at home and be with her. So how's she handling all that?
She's handling pretty well. However, there are days that are difficult.
Yeah.
But just being and going through the leadership games gave us the tools to understand that our 20s and 30s is our foundational years that are going to be used when we are in our 40s to 70s.
Yeah.
So we don't see it too much as where we have to be right now. We see it as a process that God is having us in the moment.
So you're having more of a long view in life.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's awesome. So when you thought of yourself as a 30-something, 34 right now,
Yes.
before you came to the leadership games, where then you had a chance to be poured into spiritually, vocationally, even socially, versus how you see what things look like now, what's that like? How is that different?
The difference is I don't see my life as different portions as a Christian. I see my life as a complete circle where discipleship is everywhere. When I go to my workplace, I need to be the best engineer so I can represent Jesus there so that people can be discipled through my excellency. So that's how I see it, and I'm more intentional.
Yeah.
Even more intentional now.
Yeah. Was Greg Campbell, was he the leader for you in the leadership
Yes.
games? So just so you guys know, I'm not supposed to be the host tonight. So Greg Campbell, who's a former leader in Homeland Security of the Postal Service, and Greg this morning left his home in Dallas, flew to the airport, or drove to the airport, flew to Houston, but it took, instead of a half hour, 2.5 hours. And then he sat on the runway in Dallas. He just landed. He said, I'm here in Nashville. I said, well, just go to the hotel, have dinner on me, and watch the Final Four, right? Because there's no way he's going to make it here in time. But Greg was somebody that poured into Paul. What was that like? What was that like having an older, wiser, godly leader committed to help you grow?
It was a blessing because we dream to have mentors. I will say all 20s and 30-year-old young people dream to have a mentor, but it's different when you have a mentor that also are fearful of God. And that was Greg and the other men for me. They were mentors, but also father figures that I could see because they were also successful in their careers, being true and strong Christians. So that gave me hope that in the future I will be that person. And they give me companionship through being a father, first-time father, changing job careers. They just give me so much advice and also support during that process.
So Greg and others told me, so you guys, here's what happens. We spend 4 days, 3 nights hosted at Lipscomb University. They're very kind to let us use their campus. We kind of take over. And We have 4 days where spiritually in the morning there's discipleship. In the afternoon, we deal with this imaginary city called Hebron Hills. And for a lot of our young leaders, it's fun because they realize nobody's ever challenged me to think about how do you actually change a city through the lens of the ways of God. So they get to practice. The phrase the Lord gave us was help them rehearse for the real. And so we help them rehearse for the real. Then at night, we deal with social issues, as you heard on the video. This year, we're going to deal with the church. A lot of 20s and 30s love Jesus, but they've not had a real good flavor with the church. And so we want to help them have a fresh vision again of Jesus' vision for his bride and what it looks like. And we'll also deal this year with human trafficking. So, Paul, while you were there at the games, how did you get inspired as well to say, how can I start being a disciple maker? Because you've started to do some discipling.
Yes. Right now I'm leading a discipleship group with 4 other men from my church, which two are engineers, one is a musician, and the other is an accountant. They are in the 20s and 30s. And I got inspired because I saw that there is a different view of the world that we see in the news typically through the Hebron city. I saw the hope that the gospel brings in our careers, in our cities, so that we don't have to just let the glance of the world teach us how the city should be. We should see what God is teaching us, and that's what I got there.
Yeah, so as you can see, God has been doing a pretty cool work. There was a great foundation that Paul had in his life, but I have to tell you, in the last 2 years, watching his life, he's pressed into the Lord. He's really gone after it, as has his bride, Natasha. And so, Paul, we're really proud of you in the Lord for the way that you're walking with Jesus and becoming a disciple maker.
I appreciate it.
Way to go. Can you give him a hand?
Thank you.
Hey, Christopher, why don't you come on up? So, I want to introduce you to Christopher Michael. We have a common friend. We didn't know this at first, but Greg Campbell was going to introduce Christopher as somebody that he discipled when, were you in high school, Christopher, or junior high when Greg, will you tell a little of that story?
Yeah, so I had the privilege of being under Gregory Campbell's youth group when he was a youth pastor. I was 15. He came in and just really had the privilege of him coming in and just putting his arm around me. And he said he saw something in me, I couldn't see. And he really poured into me, spent a lot of time with me, took him out to coffee. And it was really a time in my life when things were very chaotic. And to have somebody come alongside of you and just see something in you, build you up and pour into you, it was pretty amazing. And it's really kind of stuck with me, all my life. And, as I kind of went about life and he kind of went on doing great things with his work and I kind of went off to school, there's many points where I try to have other people come along with me and go and hope that we're going to do life together. And for some reason or not, they may fall to the wayside or maybe even stop for serving the Lord. And there's this constant theme that I always seem to encounter where I felt like I was like the last man standing. And in those moments where I felt maybe alone or just kind of dark, I was able to remember the things that Greg Campbell poured into me. And I would still keep in touch with him. And we'd talk, and it was just somebody that was always able to pour into me and just help me, along life. Because there are times where even I felt like that I didn't want to move on myself. But it was somebody that really, encouraged me and just, kept going. Greg Campbell was one of the most enthusiastic persons, and will just encourage you. And so, having him, and then even coming to ADJ about 2 years ago, he invited me, and I was like, what is this about? And he's like, you just need to come. And being a part of it, it wasn't just an event. It was discipleship for a year, and that just really blew me away because it was like, okay, somebody's going to walk alongside of me. And having that consistent discipleship meeting, sometimes we wouldn't go through the material, we would just talk, and hey, I'm going through this. So just having those models of discipleship has been amazing. It helped me in my life. And, there's a song I wrote is, again, feeling like the last man standing. And it could be the man, woman, whoever, where you go through life and you feel like you're the last person standing. And this song is really just talking about that. It's really like a cry of when you feel like you're the last person, the last man standing. Will you stand with me?
broken in his way. The frail man begins to sway. Listless heart, committed in his mind, but fear will keep him blind. Will he move on? I am the last man standing. Will you stand with me? And I am the last man standing. Open your eyes and see. Feeling like you can, belief in his own plan, and foolish mind, a promise made again, it turns to lies within, yeah. Restless cries, and I am the last man standing. Will you stand with me? And I am the last man standing. Yeah. Open your eyes and see. I am the last man standing. Will you stand with me? I am the last man standing. Yeah. Open your eyes and see. Open your eyes and see. Open your eyes and see.
Thank you, Christopher. Hey, Matt, you want to make your way up? Hannah, you want to make your way up? So I want you to just hear the words of that song. And oftentimes, as a generation, a lot of our young leaders feel that way. It's like, who will stand with me? right? It's not just, hey, they're young people, hey, one day they'll grow up and do something. They want to be invested in now. They want to be poured into now. So thank you, Christopher. We appreciate that. So I want to introduce Matt McCauley. And Matt has been a friend for several years. Some of you may know Matt. He runs logo brands. So if you have something from Auburn or UT or whatever your favorite school is, and it's not something you wear, but might be something you sit in or a blanket or something you drink out of, it's likely that it came from Matt's warehouse. All right, so he's a Franklinite, and that's what he does, and he's a businessman. He's been a part from the beginning of the leadership games with us, and I'm going to let him introduce Hannah.
Thank you. So Hannah Bear, part of the original group. A couple years ago we went through this from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Used to work as an analyst for Samaritan's Purse, and now with International Justice Mission, correct? Trying to end slavery?
Yes. That's very good, Matt. Honestly, pretty good. Yeah, he doesn't get that right, and he's never gotten that right. So, like that, this is an accomplishment, I will say.
As you'll see, we've had a lot of fun together over the last few years, getting to know each other. And one of the interesting things was when we went through this, so I'm not sure I had more fun with the leaders going through the year before or with all of them the next year. It was kind of a toss-up. But after we went through the first year together with the leaders, we decided, how are we going to break up the business group, which we were in? We had too many for one group, so we decided to cast lots, i.e. pull names out of a hat. And when we did, she was the only female going to be in our group. We said, well, the Lord chose, not us. We'll go with it. Kind of felt bad, but how was it being the only female in the group?
Well, first of all, I just feel like I need to say this. My name is Hannah Bear, but that is my actual name. I promise you guys, not a nickname. Need to say that first, but yeah, I was pretty mad. I'm not gonna lie, I was pretty mad, feeling like, really? Like, really? For a year. It's not like a small commitment. I was gonna be like meeting with these guys for a year, every single week. And little did they know, they didn't know this, but I was actually coming out of a season of a lot of hurt, a lot of pain from men, just where I was in my life. And it actually ended up turning the tables for me in more ways than I could have possibly imagined. Honestly, like, me being a part of this group and seeing what God could do with young men, I don't want to say old men, mature men maybe is a better word. And watching together, we had guys in our group who like started ministries and were vulnerable about their relationships with their wives, their fiancés. Like, it was something that changed my perspective, and it healed areas in me that I didn't know even needed healing. So I was mad, but by the end of it, very like, God is good and really kind. He knows exactly what we need, and he does it in the most surprising of ways.
With my soft and calm demeanor and kindness that I just naturally come across, right? In which ways did I offend you? I mean, challenge you for doing things maybe outside of what you would normally do?
Guys, my generation needs offended, so I give you all permission. No, I think, so what we went through, if you guys haven't gone through ADJ, it's not easy. Let me just say this, it's not easy being a Christian. You guys know this. And sometimes you, like, especially people my age, we feel there's just this lostness. We know it's hard. We know there's so many things in this world that don't seem to line up, but who are we gonna talk to? Other people our own age? You know, like, guys, that works for a little bit, but I can tell you, like, talking about weather and tornadoes tonight, like, it turns into a tornado pretty fast when it's just a bunch of young people sitting around talking about the problems in the world. We need you guys. We need you guys to come alongside us and help us move through the things that this world is throwing at us, because it's hard. It's really hard. So, thank you for offending me, Matt.
My pleasure, always. It's really interesting to have gone through it and to go, I really don't know who learned more, the leaders or them. I mean, it really is something that for those of you who haven't done it, it's pretty awesome to go through and how you come out different, and then you remember, oh, that's right, I'm supposed to be mentoring people, and I feel like I'm just trying to figure this out as well. But even within the group, so let's take Adam, who is so awesome and of equal passion for doing things. So what were some of the things you learned from some of the people in the group at your age?
Well, I don't know, you're kind of throwing me
I
off with this question.
I felt like it was relevant, and I threw you for a little loop.
Well, yeah, okay, he's going to throw me for a loop.
But see, I wanted you guys to see how she does the whole time that we had her for a year. Like, I tried to throw her for a loop, and she handles it so well.
Well, thanks.
You're
I'm
welcome.
glad I haven't answered the question yet, so I appreciate that you had that much faith in me.
I do.
But how did I deal with them my own age? Yeah, guys, like the guys in our group, like they came from a lot of different backgrounds. And I'm sure them knowing that they had one female in this group, I don't know if you guys have looked at ADJ, but we talk about everything in ADJ, including relationships, which got really interesting. That was a really interesting few weeks with us. And I think that what I saw was a deepening transformation that happened. I mean, Adam is one of these people that is truly passionate, but his passion spread literally throughout this group. We were struggling with attendance, not gonna lie, guys, the first few weeks. And then Adam was like, we're gonna start one-on-ones. And we're like, oh my gosh, we don't have time for this. But we did. And we kept those one-on-ones going, and we sat there across from each other outside of ADJ, and we got to hear each other's stories. We got to know each other, and then we had to keep seeing each other for a year after that. And that foundation that was formed was this integral foundation that you just don't get. It's hard to get people's time. It's hard to get their commitment. And I know us sitting up here going, yeah, it's a whole year commitment. It feels like a long time, but it is so worth it. Like, what has happened for me in the last 2 years has changed the trajectory of my life. And I know that sounds dramatic, but it really has. And I would be happy to tell you, any of you, first of all, I'm very glad all of you are here tonight. Thank you for braving the storm and coming out. We're so glad you guys are here. But I'd be happy to share my story with anyone, because the reason I'm different today is because people like Matt and Jerry and John decided to commit. And we needed that. We needed it. Thanks, Matt.
Well, thank you. It hasn't ended there either. So I can say I've had the pleasure of Hannah and Paul, who you saw up here earlier, getting the chance to, hey, I got a quick question. Can we get on the phone? Continuing to be able to help where I can and mentor. And so I would say that there's tons of wisdom in this room as I'm looking around. If you guys are looking where to pour it out, if you're like me and I got kids in travel sports and it's hard to make Sundays at church all the time, it's a fantastic way to stay rooted in the scriptures and to carve out that time for the Lord and then give back at the same time. So what are some final thoughts for what people can expect if they were to join?
You can expect a wild ride, honestly. God's going to do something that you don't expect. And so I don't have very much time to tell you guys all the things that have happened, but very briefly, what God brought me through in the first year was healing, so that when I went to the games the second time, he could take me to a place. They called me the crying girl. I was very embarrassed. I don't cry that much, you guys, but I literally didn't stop crying that whole entire weekend because of God waited to bring me into a place where I could be safe with people I knew, people I trusted, and had relationship built with to take me now on a trajectory. I'm changing my career completely. Going back, I'm moving, I don't know why I'm doing this, but I'm moving to Seattle from Pittsburgh and going back to school to be a counselor. I'm in business. I work with data. But the person who got me out to Seattle, who I got to shadow and talk with, went to the games. You saw her in the video. And I was able to talk with her and like walk through this really huge life transition. And she helped me get to where I am now. So, closing thoughts, you guys don't know what God could do, and you don't know whose lives you could impact. Small, big, but just take a step. Honestly, take a step. You just don't know, and it can change lives. It really can.
And if Seattle doesn't work, come into Loco. Come on. All right. Well, thank you guys. Thank you for being here. We really appreciate it.
Thanks so much, guys.
Good job, bud. So some of you are probably asking a couple questions like, what is ADJ? So ADJ it's a tool that we've developed that we use for the last 21 years now. It's called a discipleship journey. And what it is, it's a tool that allows someone to go deep in their walk with Jesus to the point that they can reproduce that in other people. Jesus told us to make disciples. And unfortunately, most followers of Jesus, we have been on the receiving end of being discipled, but we've never learned how to make disciples. And through the leadership games and the experience that you go on as an older leader, going for a year through this within a vocational team, arts, business, education, STEM, media, that kind of thing, you have a chance to grow yourself. I have leaders that say, I want to be a part of this, but I don't know how to disciple. And we said, we got you on that. And we help them grow. So by the time a year later, they get to the leadership games and meet these, Pauls and Hannahs, they fall in love with them, and in turn, the young ones fall in love with them. So most of this is done on Zoom. All right, so Matt's here, Hannah's Pittsburgh, they have people from all over the country. So the 4 days is the opportunity to meet each other, work strategically together on how do we fix this city through the lens of the ways of God and the problems that it has, and they begin to build a relationship of trust. And then they all head home, and then literally, I want you to think about this, for 48 weeks, and there's breaks in there for the holidays and that kind of thing, but for 48 weeks, they are on the call an hour a week, and investing older into younger. And as you know, as you invest into younger, the younger ends up blessing you in many ways as well. And Paul and Hannah, you both have done that for us. So I just want to encourage you, if you have interest in that, you are welcome to be a part of it. So tonight, obviously it's a fundraiser. 75% of the income that comes into Lionshare to let us do the things we do comes from donors. It comes from individuals. It comes from churches. Our church here supports what we do, and it comes from businesses. And a lot of it I've run into business leaders who have learned to tithe out of their business. And so they say, hey, we tithe X amount, a year based on our income, the 10%, and we want to help. And so there's a lot of different ways that we see Lionshare funded. But with the leadership games, this summer, July 10 to 13, if you're here in town, please reach out to Laura or myself and say, I'd like to come and spend a half a day. I'd love for you to see what it's all about, because I think when you see what it's all about, you'll get excited and would like to be a part of it. So it's July 10 to 13. We can fill you in with more information, hosted at Lipscomb University. We'll have young adults here from all over the country. You're going to have, on your way out, you'll be getting a copy of the Great Opportunity book if you don't have it. And you're going to see these cards. And on these cards, there's a little QR code. And if you are hearing this tonight and you're going, my son or daughter needs to go to this. It's like people pretty much that are in their 20s and 30s. That's the target audience. But you may have somebody who's a godly young person, but they need to go to the next level in their walk with Jesus. Or they've never been discipled vocationally. We have a government group. One of our young government leaders was being discipled by a government leader, a godly government leader. He was in a particular state and ended up in a situation that was really difficult. And he called their disciple maker and said, what do I do about this? He said, well, this is why God has given you people of authority. You need to go to your candidate and you need to tell them what's going on. And so he said, I'm going to walk well under authority. And he went to the candidate, told him what was going on, and the problem was immediately solved. So there's a thing in Scripture that talks about walking well under authority. How do we do that? What does that look like? And so discipleship journey, through the older leaders passing on to the younger, they begin to load up their tool belt with the things of God that lets them run in their families, that lets them run in their relationships and on the job. So being direct with you, how much does it cost each year to run the leadership games? It's about $100,000. I want you to think about this with me. Many of these young leaders that come, some of them are 24, 25 years of age, they barely get a week off a year. And so to try to get time off to come to do a Thursday to a Sunday and then losing their pay because they can't be working. So we try to scholarship them. We do a lot of matchings. And because of the gifts and generosity of people like yourselves, this program could easily be a $2,500 per person program. Do you know what it costs for 4 days at Lipscomb and a year of being on a team like what Paul and Hannah have talked about, where they had 2 or 3 older leaders with 5 or 6 younger leaders? $499. And a lot of that, we're able to offer that because of the generosity of people like yourself. We can say, hey, we can supplement this so that you can come. We don't want you to miss this. And so just so you have that in mind tonight, if you're hearing this and this resonates with you, that's what we need. We need $100,000 every year to pull off the leadership games, all right? Discipleship journey. So one of the projects that we work on is, it's a book I wrote 21 years ago, and so for me, it's never about a book. It captures much of the ways of God from Scripture and helps reveal God's character, and how can we get people to be shaped in the things of God. And so over the last several years, we've been translating it. It's now in German. It's now in Nepali. Here's, if you want to see a different language, here's the same thing, but it's in the Nepali language. Do you know that in Nepal, if you were to be online there and you type in discipleship resources, there's not very many. You do that here, you're going to come up with 50 to 100 or more. And so we had the privilege of translating that, and over the last 14 months, Jim Bakke went with me to Nepal, and we launched Discipling Pastors and Leaders how to use this tool. And they looked at us and said, we know how to win people to Jesus, but we've never known how to disciple. And as of now, we're hitting the mark of about 1,000 pastors and leaders throughout the nation of Nepal that have been discipled. We have a man there and a couple other younger guys that are jumping in and giving a hand. And so let me just kind of give you, if you've not been to Nepal, some of you have, you've been there with me. But here's the deal. If somebody says, oh, it's 70 miles away, in our American minds, we go, oh, well, we'll be there in an hour. Not with those roads. They'll be there in about 6 hours. And we have a man there that is so committed to this that he travels to all these places where many people won't go. We have another young man by the name of Saran. So Manohar is that guy, and then Saran, who's about 38 years of age, and he's that guy that will go ride the bus for 10 hours, drive in a car for another 6, and then hike for 12 to get to that village to make sure they're being discipled. So there's things like that we're having the privilege of doing around the world. And so right now, a couple of the languages that we have opportunity that we're just praying about is Swahili. A well-known African language. Our French friends and those from Quebec, hey, when are you going to have it in French? So we're looking at several languages this year. And I did a little math, and between the volumes of this we have in different languages now, and if we can hit those other 2, I did the math, and another one is we're looking at is Bengali, that's huge throughout India. I realized if we could get those languages translated on top of what we already have, we will have access to this tool in 37% of the world. So what does it cost? What's it cost? So it costs us about $10,000 to $15,000 to have it translated, then to have it edited. And I can't edit Nepali. Hey, Dave, could you check this out? Not really, all right? So you have to kind of walk that through. And then there's a layout and design process. Then there's a printing process. And as Manohar said to me, he said, Dave, if you don't have a strategy with this, why print the book? Because it'll just sit on people's shelves. And I said, I agree with you. And this man, 65 years of age, took this on, and he's the guy traveling all over the nation. And many of you in this room have contributed to that project. And it is amazing. We right now, some of you are familiar with Discipleship Journey Kids, which is something for 5 to 12-year-olds that tracks this book. So as parents, you can go through it together. So the publisher there is all lit up about doing it in Nepali. And so we're excited about that kids can have something. There's animation. We actually created animation that goes with it. So we have 2 characters in English, 80 and J. Are you following me? ADJ. And so AD's a 12-year-old, J's an 8-year-old that gets in trouble, and in these 2 to 3 minute episodes of animation, they learn the ways of God. When I first showed it here, some of you guys were in this class here at South Hall, and I showed the videos, the animations, and you said, could we watch those instead of listening to you? And it was like, okay, I see where we're at here, all right? But that is on the verge now, and so we're just launching the Spanish edition, and instead of AD and J, it's Abby and Juan. And so that'll come out. So I don't know what their names will be in Nepali, but it's been exciting for us to see discipleship happening in the nations. But if you're interested, some of you have a heart for that kind of thing. It's about $10,000 to $15,000 per language, and between now and about 18 months from now, there's 2 that we're going to take on, and we're kind of working through which 2 right now, because we need a champion in that part of the world and someone then who's willing to walk this through all the way to the end. And so it looks like we have those in a couple of key places. But if that's of interest to you, $10,000 to $15,000 for each translation to get it there and to get them started with about 1,000 to 2,000 copies. In Nepal, the strategy has worked, and Jimmy's been a big help to us in this. And what has happened is this: we said, we will fund this, but then we're not going to fund it anymore because we want you to charge just enough so that when people buy it, you can say, just so you know, when you're buying one, you're creating one for somebody else. So it's becoming self-sufficient, which is amazing. So it's been really, really exciting to us. Let me share you through one last thing tonight. So one of the great concerns that we've had with the Lionshare Leadership Group, we are now we started in 2001, so we're in year 24. So next year will be a big kind of 25th anniversary celebration when we do this. And one of the things that I find myself running into in a lot of places is a huge vacuum of godly leadership. Have you noticed? It's about in every area of society. And one of the things that I have to keep coming back to is why is that? Because the church hasn't made disciples, and we haven't understood vocational disciple making to say, do you understand God was a builder? Do you understand these different attributes of who God is actually displays themselves in the vocations? And so we help them begin to catch vision for how, as a governor of a state, how as an artist who travels and sings, how as a scientist are you to live your life with the purposes of growing in God's ways and advancing his kingdom through what you do. Carmen's back there. I have the privilege of being on a radio show every other Monday morning, and through the radio airwaves, Carmen is trying to advance God's kingdom. And I could point so many of you out in this room. But there's a void right now. And one of the things that we've done over the years, if this is a discipleship journey, we have something called a leadership journey. It usually starts in January, ends in June. We've done this for 22 years, since 2003. How many of you have been through a leadership journey? Wave your hands. Yes, there's a number of you here tonight. We've had several hundred now that have gone through it. We usually take a group of anywhere from 8 to 18, depending on the year, and for 6 months go deep in our walks with Jesus. We start the first retreat by asking this question. So if you've not heard this before, think about this. If you were the devil, how would you take you out? Chew on that one for a while. If you're honest, you should be able to answer it in about 30 seconds. If not, come talk to me and we'll help you with that, all right? Because you need to grow and build up. And most leaders are so blowing and going, they never see where am I vulnerable and build themselves up. So that's where we start. And then we get into leadership, and we go into discipleship, and we go into understanding the seasons of your life so you best know how to cooperate with God where you are. Do you know that you don't hit your stride in life until somewhere in your late 50s and into your 60s? That's the reality. Yeah, so someone's going, that's all I needed to hear tonight. Praise the Lord, all right? But our young leaders need to know that, because do you understand the pressure they feel at 25 to feel like they're hitting their stride? And it's not. When you're in your 20s and 30s, it's more about what God is building in you than what he's trying to do through you. And if you can keep your eyes on that, it helps you when you get to that age, you have godly character built through and through. So one of the things that we're doing is this. We believe as a team it's time for us to put this into a video format that can be used online in a subscription form. And anybody who's gone through a leadership journey will be certified to be able to use that material within their leadership circles of relationships. And so it's something we're very excited about doing, because it's been very effective for us for 22 years, but it's all been just kind of Dave with a group of people, which has been awesome. But now, how do I help that group of people take that content? We got discipleship journey for them, but for leadership, how do we help them grow in leadership? How do we help them? I don't know if you guys have seen the show on Netflix, or not Netflix, Amazon Prime, The House of David. Have some of you been watching that? The other night watching it, just something rose up inside me when I saw David's passion for God to be glorified and goes knocking out Goliath. And I'm thinking, why are we missing that? Instead, we're walking in fear, and what are other people thinking? Instead of saying, no, this is about God and Him being glorified. How do we do that? We need more leaders with that fire, regardless of what they do in life. That it's not just about the money, it's not just about position, it's not about my role, it's about God. How do you want to advance your kingdom and be glorified? And so we are on a mission to get this done. It'll probably begin to be available for people to purchase it the fall of 26, probably January of 27 when it'll be available, because we want to take the time and build it right so it has a high leadership quality to it. How much does that cost, Dave? That's going to cost us probably $50,000 to $75,000 to be able to pull that off with all that we need, which includes an incredible web place where you can go have subscription and go after it. So those are practical needs we have. The Lionshare Leadership Group, shaping leaders and making disciples. So you got the leadership games. What's the need? About $100,000 each year. You got discipleship journey. We got 2 translations that we can be working on. They're about $10,000 to $15,000 each to make them happen. And when it comes to this new leadership journey course that can be used all over the place and help leaders, like there's churches that just don't have anything to disciple their staffs. There are nonprofits that have nothing to grow their staffs. Then you've got what I call kingdom enterprises, which many of you lead here, which would be businesses who are really about God's kingdom and what they do. And they have an awesome staff. Like I think like George's staff, it's like you want to have tools. So that's going to cost us about $50,000 to $75,000. So that's kind of what we're after tonight is letting you just know if you want to help fuel our mission and see more Pauls and Hannahs and Chris's and Matt's and Greg, who couldn't be here. You want to see more of that. Older leaders who catch it and give their lives to the next generation. And young leaders who are committed to the purposes of God. I just want to invite you to participate in giving with us. You'll notice on your table a little card that is there. I think it's by your pen. And so if you look at that card, you'll see there's a number of things on there. There's several different ways that you're able to give. And I know some of you are going to say, Dave, I want to do that, but I need to go home and pray about this. That's great. There's an envelope. You can take that home and stick that in the mail as you want to, all right? But you'll notice a couple things here. You can give via cash after giving us your name and information. Cash, a check. Who's it made out to? Do you see in the left-hand corner there of your card, the Lionshare Leadership Group? If you'd rather have us send you an invoice because maybe there's an amount you want to give personally or through your charitable foundation, you can put that on. Just check that and give us your information and we can send you something that can help you do that. And again, if you'd rather take this home and pray about it, you're welcome to. If you want to give tonight, you'll see a QR code on there. Just take your phone, click that, it'll open it up and you can donate live and in color right now, all right? You'll also notice on there that if you want to receive, we have a monthly, it's actually 10 times a year, July and December usually not, a Lionshare email that keeps you current on some of these things that we've been talking about. If you'd like to learn more about the leadership games, because I'm always, you guys, the leadership games only goes as far as I have 40s to 70s. Okay, otherwise I got to tell young leaders, I don't have enough room for you. So if you're saying what I heard these guys talking about, I want to be a part of it, just check that box and we'll reach out to you. Here in May and June, I'm doing 45-minute Zoom calls that lets you learn all about it, get all your questions answered. Because starting in August, we need to have a new batch of 40s to 70s who can help us next year in 2026. So if you're interested in that, check that box. And finally, if you as an individual or business would like to be a corporate sponsor for things like this, you saw the sponsors on the back, can't do it without them. But we also need sponsors for things like the leadership games. And if you're interested in that with your business, let us know that and we'll reach out to you. Okay? Hey, Christopher, you want to come back up? He's going to have a little instrumental music for us while you just take a few minutes to consider this. So let me just pray, and then as you're taking a few minutes to do this, I'm going to go back with Sonia, and we're going to greet those online and help them know how they can do this tonight. And then we're going to close with the Founders Award, and I'll tell you about that in a moment. So would you just join me in prayer? And let me just say this before I pray. The way Cheryl and I, as young missionaries with Youth of the Mission at 18, 19, 20 years of age, learned to give was this. It wasn't, well, do I have it or do I not? Do I feel like it? No, it was, Lord, it's yours. Are you wanting me to give? And if so, how much? I don't know if you give like that, but there's tremendous freedom, knowing that it's not just about what you're thinking, it's about what God's thinking. So Jesus, tonight, we know that people are on all different places and spaces in their life in this regard. And you know there's no expectations on our end except, Lord, that we look together to see how you want to meet the opportunities that are here. So, Lord, tonight, just as Christopher plays, we just bow before you. And if, Lord, this is friends that believe they are to partner with us, whether it's tonight or it's in a monthly gifts or however it is, I just would pray, Lord, that you would speak to their hearts tonight. So let me just give you a couple minutes and then we'll get on with the Founders Award and get you out of here.
All right, live stream friends, we are not leaving you out of this opportunity. I have someone photobombing me here.
Right, exactly.
Dave, thank you for joining the live stream.
Thank you.
It's been a great evening to hear some stories. I'm a firm believer that if people don't hear stories, they're not going to understand what it is that Lionshare is trying to do.
Yeah, totally agree. Yeah, and I like, Hannah and Paul are like 2 of 200. And so I'm excited that they were able to take the time, be here, and share what Jesus is doing in their life.
We have about 24 people watching here
Nice.
on our live stream.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank you. And we hope we're ironing out all the wrinkles so that we can do this again next year. So even though you're not here and you can't manually write on a card, we haven't given you a QR code, there is a link in the description for this live event that you can click on that more button and you'll see the link that you can use to give a tax-deductible donation toward the leadership games. The link is lionshare.cc/livinglegacygive. lionshare.cc/livinglegacygive. Now, Dave, the only thing you did not mention up there is our podcast.
Hey, you're right. So maybe I need to do that when I get back up there. Otherwise, I'm going to be in trouble. So yes, Wisdom Unlock the Ways of God. Usually twice a month, you can get this podcast. And Sonia and I tag team on that. She's a great host, and we banter together on really important topics. Right now, we're going through the Beatitudes in the Sermon on the Mount. So if you haven't picked that up recently, I'd encourage you to go to Spotify or iTunes, and I think it'll be an encouragement to you. And I need to scoot back up here.
Go ahead.
All right, thanks, you guys. Glad you're a part.
The reason I brought up the podcast is not to actually plug it, and of course, Dave and I really enjoy hosting it and talking to each other. But actually, season 9, which is out right now, the previous season, season 8, was all about the leadership games, introducing the idea, how it came about. But what we did was throughout the course of the season,
So once
we
you have
interviewed
filled that
people from
out,
each of the vocational fields
there's
that are
a big
represented
white
at the
envelope
games.
there on your
so
table.
we have people
Somewhere
who
in the
were
middle,
in the government
you'll see it there.
and
And,
nation
you
security
can just
and
put
law
your
field. We have
envelope
people
if
who
you
are
have
in the
checks or
arts,
can't, you
media,
just
and
put it in there.
entertainment field,
And
the
you can
business
just
field,
leave it
as you
on the
saw.
table, and when
And
we're
we're
done
actually
tonight,
adding
we'll
some
have our
new
team going
vocational
around collecting
fields
those.
to the
All right,
leadership
so that just
games
makes it easy for
this
you.
summer.
So,
Thank
you,
take a look
Christopher.
at
Appreciate it.
check out the podcast
So, where's
and
my
see what
beloved
you think. I'm going to
Cheryl
send it
Ann,
back
are
to
you
Dave on
here?
stage.
Oh, here she is. Can you come on up here? Let me just rearrange this. And I'm going to ask George and Debbie and John and Dinah to come on up. So a couple of years ago, we started talking about how could we honor how could we honor some of those who have walked with us in Lionshare for a long time? And so we created something called the Founders Award, and it's something that Cheryl and I have the privilege each year of being able to give to several people. We have people here who have received this before. Mac and Deb McMillan, wave. Bruce Heiser, where's Brucey? Jim Bakke, Dan and Sherry Hammond, all right, and Gabriel Smith, who can't be here tonight, but his dad's representing, all right? And so it's a fun thing for us to be able to, just do this with friends who have served. So this is John and Dinah Hodgson, and they're from Ohio. And we were just talking about it earlier. I think 92, 93 is when we met. And let me just read something to you here about John and Dinah, all right, from Moreland Hills, Ohio. They have been involved with Lionshare Leadership Group since its inception in 2001. There's not much in Lionshare's world that John and Dinah have not jumped into, to generously given towards or teamed with us to serve others. Early on, they participated in our Acts Alive youth camps. Back in the day, we were at our first Leaders Getaway in 2007 and at our Fathers of the Faith video shoot in 2008, which was an amazing time. We gathered a generation of spiritual fathers. How many of you were there at that? There's a few of you. Very good. All right. They have also gone through a leadership journey, used a discipleship journey to disciple others, and currently are both leaders for us in the leadership games. They have been a tremendous encouragement to Cheryl and I. They're one of the couples that, when I'm speaking in Cleveland, they allow me the privilege just to kind of hang with them in their home, and it's nice because I go out and do the things I need to do. Sometimes Dinah has gone with me for those things, but then at night can just hang and talk together, and it's one of those long-time, comfortable gene friendships. And so tonight, let me just say a couple things to you guys. John. By the way, John's an internationally recognized cardiologist, so if there's any heart issues tonight, he can help you, all right? By the way, he's written a great book, which I think he has a few with him tonight, that I would encourage people to read if you have an interest in how the heck do we fix our health system. It's called Healing the System, a prescription for rejuvenating the heart in healthcare. Came out a couple years ago. John, I jotted down, I just think of a lot of different places where we've hung and just had conversations about life, about family, about the church, about your vocation and what you do. And I just want you to know those are memories for me that I have really appreciated. I feel like you're one of those people for me that I always know where we go, we're on the same page of thinking Jesus and his kingdom. And I appreciate the way you've always thought about that. It's meant a lot to me. I looked up for both of you when you guys went through ALJ in 2008. So one of the things, if you go through ALJ, you have to pretend you don't know this, because we surprise people at the very end I ask the Lord, who's a Bible character that I see their lives reflected in? And for you, John, it was Luke, a doctor who is well-educated and a well-traveled man. He saw a suffering person as someone who Jesus loved and wanted to meet their needs. Also, Luke interacted with lots of the leaders of his day, as do you. And I just want to reaffirm that tonight, Dr. Luke. Thank you for being that kind of a companion to this leader. Dinah's also been doing some writing. She wrote a book about her story called Up from the Ashes, Reclaiming God's Original Design and Purpose for Your Life. And also, she handed me a copy of it last night when we had dinner, a new book called The Uncommon Leader. And so both of those are available, all those are available on Amazon. So just something for you to look at and consider. Dinah, I remember in 2006 when we left our role at Belmont Church with Myrone. Where's Myron? Yep, Myron and I were on staff together there and full-time into Lionshare, and you were one of the very first people that said, how can I help? And you came alongside practically, personally, and really helped us launch during that time. I've watched for years your care for people and your desire to see people not only free but find their stride, because I know that was something you sought for a long time, both freedom and finding your stride, and you have found those, and you're impacting people's lives. And when I looked at this, I saw in 2008, it was Abigail. Capable, intelligent, humble, and wise, someone who was faithful to fulfill what they believed the will of God to be. That's who you've been for many, many years. So thank you to both of you for your faithfulness to Jesus and his kingdom, and thank you that you've chosen to express a lot of that by teaming with us. Cheryl, can you give them a round of applause? So this little award was made by a very special artisan who I don't know that he was able to be here tonight, but a local artisan who wanted to craft something for us that was handmade that he could make, and so we've appreciated that. Now, to my right, from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, did you know I used to want to be a sports announcer? For real, when I was in high school, that was my deal. And now also Bradenton, Florida, George, who currently serves on Lionshare Board, and Debbie have been connected and actively involved with Lionshare Leadership Group since 2012. Discipleship was first imparted in George's life through a men's group at his church that was using a discipleship journey. So get a load of this. Since that time, George has since led or launched over 20 discipleship journey groups. He's got a heart for pouring in. Debbie jumped into the fun as well by joining George on a leadership journey, where George also served on our team for a decade. And Debbie has gone on to launch women's ADG groups in her local church as well. So both of them are serving their church in discipleship, and both of them are key players in the leadership games. John and Dinah were both in the health area. Dinah helped us with the alumni last year, those who returned for a second year. And George has led our business team, and Debbie and my wife lead the family team. And so ladies, if you want to disciple young women and young women with children, come and see Debbie and Cheryl. There's my plug, all right? So George, I remember when I first met you, how hungry you were spiritually. And that has not changed. You are deliberate, disciplined, and dedicated to look more and more like Jesus. Allowing me the opportunity to peek into your company, Keyhole Marketing, you've built a God-honoring company from the foundations up. Relationship, high-character leaders, and a kingdom focus while also accomplishing your mission successfully. It's an example to a lot of us. You've modeled what vocational discipling can look like. George actually, when I first met him, he said, I want you to come to my office, and he showed me the table and chairs and the video player that he had all set up there so he could do his ADJ groups there with business people. When you went through ALJ in 2015, you were Noah, a righteous man who had found favor in God's sight, a man of remarkable faith in a faithless society. You as a person and what you do for others in disciple making, George, has created many a lifeboat for people who've been struggling, and it has transported them from where they've been stuck to where they've been hoped to be. So thank you for doing that. Debbie, I like this. Watching and interacting with you over this last decade, I've appreciated the contrast that Jesus has built within you. Check this out, George. A leader, yet a faithful follower, strong, yet gentle, feisty, yet yielding. Pretty good, George? Wise, yet continuing to learn, and mission-oriented, yet deeply caring for people. In staying in your home close to 10 times now, the care and kindness you offer me has always aided the giving out and ministry that I have to do when I'm in town. It's always a great place just to come and he turns on the UT game for me when I'm there. Do you remember who your character was? Naomi. You went through with Matt in 2017. Naomi was a woman in the midst of great challenges, willingly following the Lord into new territory. You've done that with George. She invested what she had in those God entrusted to her. She served as a good listener and wise counsel to Ruth, and her life story reveals a picture of the redemptive hand of God. And I remember, Debbie, your journey of kind of spiritually where you were before. It's amazing what's happened in the last 8 years in your life. And just transformation, and just Cheryl and I count you as faithful friends, and we're really grateful for both of you. So, Cheryl, can you give them a round of applause? You guys can go have your seat so you don't just have to stand up here. But this is an award that we just like to give to honor. You know, did you know this? The Bible talks as much about honoring as it does obeying. Did you know that? It's a high value of God's, is looking for ways to honor others. So let me just close this out tonight so we can all get home, all right? First, so I'm just looking at my notes here. Thank you for coming. We know that this was not easy. There's actually more here than I expected to be here with what we're dealing with outside, and as we hear the thunder rumble. So thank you for that. We're really appreciative. And those of you that have joined us online, thank you. You're our first group to do this, and so thank you for taking the time to do so, and I really hope this has been enjoyable and instructive for you as well. I want to thank our sponsors, those of you that took the time to invest in this so that this could happen. We're really grateful for you. Thank you for your generosity and kindness to us. We're very thankful. I also need to let you know that the flowers at your table are available to be taken home by someone at your table. It's the flowers, not the vases. So don't be walking out with the vases. It's a flower bouquet that you can take home. Otherwise, Melissa will say, "That's mine, thank you." All right? If you don't already have one, as you head out the door, or if you have one but want to give it to somebody, pick up a copy of The Great Opportunities, just a book we want to give you. The subtitle, Making Disciples of Jesus in Every Vocation. All right? So if you want to say, hey, you guys are talking a lot about discipling and vocations. I don't know what that means. All right? Pick up a copy, and it'll help you kind of catch vision for that. And then come be a part of our Leadership Games team. Again, take one of these Leadership Games flyers with you, if I can find where it is. You'll see these out the door. Can I just challenge you to find one young leader in their 20s and 30s? And someone asked me, who do you look for this? So let me give you the 4 things we look for of what's a ripe person. They already love Jesus. There's some level of godly character that's already there. They feel called to their vocation, at least now. They know that's where God has them, and they have a desire to be discipled, to grow. That's what we're looking at. It's not a time for somebody who's maybe just a brand new believer and they need to walk. This is somebody who, they want it. They want it. Because I'll tell you, the leaders give it, and it helps take them to another level. So I want to challenge you to take one of those, pray about it. And here's, can I just be honest? Sorry, Hannah and Paul. Not everybody's like you guys, but a lot of young leaders right now, you have to kind of hand walk them into the process, just so you know that you can't just say, hey, you need to think about this. You need to sit down, have a cup of coffee with them, help envision them, and then help them through the process. All right? So just a FYI on that. So we want to invite you to do that. Finally, I want to say a big thank you to Melissa Farrar. I told her tonight I was going to introduce a new term here, Scott. So when you come to an event, like, wasn't this beautifully decorated tonight? Amazing. So who is here today helping to set this stuff up? Put up your hands. Okay, thank you all for doing that. Yeah, it was awesome. But the mastermind behind it is Melissa, and so I said, you have been Farrar'd tonight, all right? Where you have an opportunity to, you will use that one, Scott? Yeah, I figured. So the reality is Melissa just has a gift with this, to take the time, think it through, lay it all out, so thank you for that. And so for our team too, Laura, Sherry, Cheryl, so many of our team have jumped in and been a part. Sonia, thank you for hosting tonight our call. We're very grateful. And so here's my last thing. So Melissa has a process of cleaning up, and we do not want to disrupt this process. But this process goes like this. As you stand up, they need to remove everything from the table. Once that's done, the chairs get stacked in 8. Then there's dollies in the back that I learned Matt McCauley knows where they are, that we get, and we roll those back there. All right, so there's church here tomorrow. All right, so we just kind of want to give a hand. So you're going to be dismissed in about 60 seconds, but if you're able just to hang out for just a little bit, guys in particular, and just kind of help us get this done so everybody can get home, that would be awesome. All right, so thank you all very, very much for coming tonight. We're very grateful. I hope this has been fun. I hope you've been encouraged, and I hope that you have an opportunity to partner with us in the days ahead. Amen? Jesus, thank you. Yeah, thanks. Jesus, thank you for your kingdom. And thank you that it's advancing in the earth. Thank you, Lord, that there's young leaders who, and some of us, like me at 65, 20 years from now, is probably going to be sitting in a rocking chair, reading the Word, watching the ball game, but I still want these young leaders in my life. And they're the ones that will be running things. And Lord, if we want to see the ways of God demonstrated through their lives, it's not going to happen accidentally. It's going to happen intentionally. And so, Lord, would you continue to bless that? Lord, with Discipleship Journey, with people hungry around the nations, but they're saying, I know my Bible, but I don't know how to understand it. I don't know how to apply it. And Lord, we just would pray that those today, that right now, Nepal's 12 hours ahead of us, so there are some getting up early in the morning, and they're having their quiet time with their Bible and a discipleship journey. Lord, would you bless them this morning and those throughout the nations that are using this? And Lord, as we talk about a vacuum of leadership, we just would ask, Lord, as we pursue this new tool, not just the gathering that happens for 6 months a year, these last 22 years, but a new tool that leaders can take and pour into leaders, their peers and next generation. Lord, we ask that you would help us with this, that we would accomplish this and get this done. So it's another effective tool in your hands that we can use. Lord, as we head out tonight, we ask for safe passage home. We ask, God, that for each family that's here, that you'd bless these families that are represented. Lord, we give you honor and we give you glory in Jesus' name. Amen. Thank you all for coming. Drive home safely, and we'll see you soon.